This is lesson 6. It's using the inverse property and having variables on both sides of the equation. Let's start with just kind of a simpler one. Here we're going to have 4 plus 2x equals 4x. Okay. One of the big things that we're always going to try and do here is we're trying to get your variables all on the same side. And if we had another integer, we try and get that. What you do here is going to be an addition or a subtraction, which applies to both the 2 and the x. So we are subtracting 2x. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. Subtract 2x. This is where this inverse is coming into play. This is canceling out because if you have 2x minus 2x, you're going to end up with 0. Now we have 4x minus 2x. Keep what you're left with on this side. So we just brought this one down. This whole thing is going to equal 4x minus 2x is going to equal 2x. Once we're at this point, this one's pretty standard. Now we're doing the inverse of multiplying, which is dividing. Dividing by 2. Your answer ends up being 2 equals x. So that's the first one, which is a simpler one. Now, some of the other ones that you're going to see in your homework, it's going to be a little more complicated. They're going to have a couple things. So they'll have, let's use 3 plus, let's go x equals, I'm going to go 6 minus 2x. All right, so here, now we have these two things going on. I'm going to use a different color. We have the integers right here, which are going to need to be combined, and we have our variables. Our x's are going to need to be combined as well. Okay, so I'm only going to do one step at a time with this one. First, I'm going to deal with the integers. Anytime I'm dealing with something, I always try and keep stuff positive. So here, we know that 3 is going to be smaller than 6, so I'm going to take away the 3. Subtracting 3 here, subtracting 3 here. Those cancel out. You're left with 3. Now, keep everything else the same. Here you have x equals 3 minus 2x. Okay? Same thing's going on here. Now we have now we have to deal with the two different variables. Okay? So here we know that this one is a negative. The negative is I'm going to move the negative because I like to keep everything positive. The opposite of a negative is a positive here. So I'm doing positive 2x and then I add 2x here. These cancel. You're left with 3. The 3 comes down. Then you have 2x plus x. This equals 3. This equals 3x. At this point, this shouldn't be too hard. We should know that we're dividing by 3, and you end up with x equals 1. And that's what satisfies that one. So that's a more simpler one. Let's move on to one. So that's the first example. The first example is always one that x ends up being satisfied. What that means is x equals only one solution. That is the only thing that can satisfy all of these conditions. Let's move on. The next example is one like this. So we're going to go with this equation. 7 plus 4x equals 3 plus 4x. Okay? So similar to what we had, we see that we have both integers on both sides that we have to deal with, and we have variables that we have to deal with. So So I want to deal with the variable first, because here's what's going to happen on this one. We know that the opposite of a positive 4x is going to be a negative 4x. And we subtract 4x from this one. This just ends up equaling 0. Now let's bring our two integers down. We're bringing the 7 down. 7 equals, we're bringing the 3 down. 3. This has canceled out as well. So what this ends up looking like is that 7 equals 3, and there's no other variable in here. Well, we know that 7 does not equal 3, and then because there's no other variable to solve with, this equation actually doesn't work. So the answer for this one is there's no solution. So if the variables end up canceling out, and all you're left with are your two integers here, the answer is going to be there's no solution, because nothing can work this equation out. So that's the second kind that you can see. The third one